Welcome to the Logistics and Tech Plus Summit. Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world and what time zone you're listening in. Today, I am excited to be joined to talk about operational considerations when implementing logistics tech by Tobias Becker of Magaloop, based in Berlin, and Eric Gaylor of AB Courier out of Newmark, Ontario, Canada. And like I said, we're going to be talking about just what considerations they had when implementing logistics tech at their respective organizations. I think before we get kicked off with the questions, we're going to go around and do a round of introductions.
Hi, I'm Eric from AB Courier. We're a regional transportation provider in the province of Ontario.
I'm Toby from Magaloop, based in Berlin, and yeah, we are basically digitizing the corner shops and wholesalers around the cities of Germany.
And I'm Ben Johnson, and I'm a solutions architect here at Hypertrack. So having worked with both Toby and Eric and quite a few other customers on these challenges.
And I'm Ben Allen. I'll be moderating this session today, and I'm the VP of Sales here at Hypertrack. And with that being said, let's jump into the first question, guys. Question number one, simply, what challenges have you guys faced in your logistics operations, and which benefits had you seen with the logistics technology that you implemented in regards to just processes and KPI metrics that you're able to improve or problems that you're able to solve for?
We looked at a couple of ways to solve our transportation solutions pertaining to location intelligence. We found the biggest, I guess, blank spot in data that we didn't have at the time was knowing exactly where our drivers were, what opportunities are available for those drivers given their current position and future positioning. And based upon that, we started exploring what solutions were available, what those solutions could derive, what metrics we could start monitoring, which then opened up a bunch of avenues to better understand micro activities of those drivers, micromanagement of the time, the routing, and the efficiency for walking and driving for those drivers to ensure that every customer transaction was 100% satisfied.
That's awesome, Tobias.
So on our platform, we had the issue that basically a user would place an order, but then there would be a lack of transparency when the order is actually being fulfilled from the wholesaler. So we tried to build a solution used by the wholesaler to close this gap of information, and also giving us the opportunity to take a deeper look in their operations and how they would, in the end, fulfill the orders, when they are being fulfilled, and then basically letting our user know, as you would expect from an up-to-date logistics solution, where the order is, when it will arrive, and then shooting out all these notifications to our user base. And also, in the end, this would help them to improve the whole operation of the wholesaler also, because they would have a better overview of all their errors and error handling. They could improve their routing. They can improve, when and how and which order is being fulfilled. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of opportunities for us. In these better logistics solutions.
And just to add on to that a little bit, like I think Eric and Toby hit some of the main points there that I hear a lot every day, which is, one, visibility, which drives both customer and operations experience, and then automation, right? Like automating some of these processes. And as Eric touched on, the asset utilization problem is so important these days. Especially in this economy where margins are even slimmer than they have been for last mile and for supply chain. So those two, and then, of course, it's, I guess what I hear and what is very similar to what they're saying is, operations is like a thankless job where you only get involved if something is going wrong, right? You only have to make changes if that delivery is not going to be on time, or you don't know where the driver is or something like that. So reducing the cost of remediating those issues and when things go wrong is another big use case we hear.
And I definitely picked up on that common theme. So moving on to question number 2. There's a lot of final mile logistics companies out there, but most companies don't have the resources to go all in right away. With that being said, to ensure that you're investing in a tool that will deliver a significant amount of ROI, how do you identify which part of your business is going to benefit the most from implementing any new sort of logistics tech tool?
We decided at A&B when we went down the road of location management to take small steps. We have no shame in admitting that we tried to reinvent the wheel. We tried to do it ourselves, and we found Hypertrack. There was no need to reinvent the wheel. The wheel was already invented, and it allowed us to scale in a size, time, and method that was comfortable to all parties involved. The location cloud is huge. Once you start diving into analyzing your assets, understanding what your assets are doing, the possibilities for endless improvement almost seem present in every window you look through. So as I would recommend to most companies, start small, work on a couple of core aspects, understand those core aspects, and then broaden your reach as you better understand how your fleet's performing and how your business and the KPIs that you're monitoring are actually performing to versus what you're expecting.
Very sound advice.
Yes, on our end, it's a slightly different challenge, and the core goal was to increase the customer or the user satisfaction, and giving us the option or all the data points to let them know where the order is. Obviously, the different side is, or the other side is that we wanted to provide state-of-the-art technology to our supplier users, how we call them. They have like a separate app where they can handle all the incoming orders, all the logistic stuff. And hence it was important for us that, they are basically being lifted to the 21st century when it comes to the software and the technology they can use. And also, since we have a dedicated department which handles our internal logistics, which is then also being connected to the last mile delivery, they needed this tool, which is basically easy to implement, which is something that can be used by everyone. So, for example, there would be a third-party supplier who just uses this supplier dashboard, as we call it. They could see all our Magalub orders. They can use it to blend the routes, and then they would give us the data points so that we can know, okay, this order is being fulfilled and all the service level agreements are basically met.
Yep, perfect.
Awesome. Not too much to add there, but I think the people I talk to, they find themselves in one of two scenarios, right? Where they're in Eric's position trying to build out this kind of technology and services to really, specialize and differentiate, to find, how they're going to compete in this market type thing. And then a lot of people are in the other position where they've been around a little while. They have some existing tech, but they are doing the same thing. They're trying to modernize. They're trying to differentiate. They're trying to find, kind of a specific workflow or use case that is ideal for their situation that may not be covered by their current technology. So they end up in a rebuild or a rebuy situation. And I think both those situations, it's incremental, where everyone we talk to has expertise. You're building operations, you're onboarding drivers, you're just crushing the operations side, but you need to automate some of the services or some of the visibility. So again, like that incremental approach is we've seen to be the most effective. Tackle one thing at a time. Like there's no overarching system or process that works for everybody. So focus on your core strengths and work with experts that can cover the gaps.
Yeah, I think that is fair. And I think that in my experience, it also helps keep you from just getting overwhelmed. Trying to put out too many things at once kind of often leads to things getting missed or underutilized. And to sort of piggyback off of something you said there, Toby, about being easy to implement, kind of leads into our third question, which, implementing new logistics technology does require a time commitment, oftentimes from numerous team members within the organization. And to build a realistic timeline for implementing new logistics tech, number one, it's tough. It's something that I've struggled with helping organizations do. But what questions are leaders at your companies asking, or were they asking about the implementation process prior to actually committing to a solution?
A and B went down the road of putting advanced location analysis intelligence fleet-wide about 4.5 years ago. And the primary question that was faced to the operations staff from the owner of the company was, is this going to work? If I call this driver, is he going to be at where that marker says? It's that doubt where it's been done 30 years this way. Predictive analysis, we know how long it takes from a driver to get from point A to point B. You're challenging a human brain that has done something 30 years successfully, profitably, on time, and now you're integrating technology. If the business owner or the team is not technology centric, you definitely will face a lot more questions as to sort of prove to me this is working. How do I know this works? What else does it do besides show me my driver is here? And that's where the teams come into play to satisfy management's requirements of showing them what else you can do with a pin and a marker.
Wow. Yep. Spot on. Yep.
Yeah, so since we are a very IT-driven company, there was not so much doubt about the solution itself, but rather how long does it take? Is it time-consuming to implement? Is it scalable? Is it possible to do feature A, B, C, or Y, Z in the future, and so on? So these are these were the questions which were asked on our end, and the good thing with the Hypertruck integration was that we basically both grew into it, right? So there was the commitment from both sides to develop something which is in our special use case not well tested, let's say, but since we just worked together basically on every single step on the way, found out where the errors are, what might need to change. Yeah, we made it work in the end, and now it's something we are using on a daily basis, and which gives us a better transparency for the end users.
Absolutely.
To add just quickly one more thing to the end of that, given the fact that businesses who have adapted Hypertruck, such as A and B, we find it instrumental now that I don't think we'd be able to implement any additional location processes or be able to have management understand any additional implementations we would want to do without having a core implementation that was easy, straightforward, and seamless to begin with. We wouldn't have been able to reach steps B, C, D, and E, and F down the road. It all starts with step A, and that's the seamless, easy integration of Hypertruck's asset management.
I think those are great points. And again, there's not much I can add with these experts in the room, but I would say that the questions are exactly what they have mentioned. That one, does it work, and how well does it work? How does it compare to me just going on my phone and collecting locations directly from the OS, assigning my own engineer to go figure this out? And then what does it enable? Like how can I use that data, which is the most overwhelming part, to drive not just, maybe visibility or predictability, but like actual connect that to cost reduction or to a greater customer experience. Like, how can I make the tie between this functionality and business results? And how do we quantify that? So those are the discussions that we usually get into.
So and I think that's a great recap, Mr. Johnson. I think that what both of you guys sort of hit the nail on the head was to make sure that when talking about this with management, that you are expressing essentially the use case that you're solving for and have a plan for how to actually show that. This is what we are testing, and it works because we're able to see, that this driver is where he is supposed to be, or that this order is where it's supposed to be at this place and time. And that leads me to the next question, which, one of the biggest sort of challenges or say unspoken truths about logistics tech and really other enterprise level types of solutions is that they are often underutilized or over time ignored. And it happens for a variety of reasons. I think some of them you guys had stated, but in your opinion, what steps can be taken to avoid paying for a solution that ultimately ends up sitting on the shelf?
Well, A&B has done both. We have solutions that are utilized daily, and we have solutions that sit on the shelf. And one of the things that management realized here is, because we do have a lot of solutions from many different parties, that integrating them to our in-house application via SDKs became extremely important. Anybody who offers an SDK allows us to integrate into our in-house software. It's something that is utilized on a daily basis by everybody at a desk and a computer or a monitor in our building. And it keeps that information at the forefront of their minds. It keeps them used to seeing that information. And once you develop a habit or mindset of seeing where my drivers are every day at a certain time, I come in and the first thing I do is look and see a map. That day I walk in and that map is not there, that's a problem. And we found that onboarding success rates are really instrumental in the repetitive or day-to-day usage of applications or enterprise solutions that aren't utilized on a day-to-day basis, maybe specialty debugging solutions, specialty error trapping, or software development solutions that are only utilized during development or testing purposes. Sometimes those enterprise solutions that have been purchased, paid for, acquired, licensed, get forgot about a year later when you go to develop something. And that's definitely money not well spent. But when you have something like HyperTrack that can be integrated with a number of methodologies into a number of different platforms, it's at the forefront of the user's mind every day. Yeah. And that's essential for management, at least at our firm.
Yeah. Is it fair to say, expanding upon what you're saying, Eric, that it sounds like for you guys at least, it's essential to have that one portal, like that one view, and tools that integrate into that operations portal or into that consumer portal get used, and tools that require a separate login or separate processes, which are harder to train and maintain, fall by the wayside. Is that accurate?
That's a fairly accurate statement. A lot of the tools that require specialty access or additional logon credentials, we find a way to integrate. So we ensure that onboarding, that adoption by those users that need those tools were purchased at one point in time or acquired for a specific purpose. That purpose hasn't disappeared. The user's inception or the user's concept of that purpose may have disappeared. The problem may have mitigated. The user may have found a workaround. But as a company, we still have that tool. We expect our staff to still utilize that tool. So if we can put that tool in front of their face every day, we'll ensure it gets utilized.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I would say here as well. It's in the end convincing the end user that this is something which helps on a daily basis, and also make them feel the advantages so that they can really say, okay, using this makes my life easier. It makes the life of the next person maybe working connected to me also, or helps to facilitate their process as well. So that it's super clear that all of these things are put in place for a reason and that it should help. And connected to this, I think it's important to also listen to the maybe even smallest inconvenience on the end user side, right? And listen to them and trying to find a solution for them. So even if it's just a pop-up that appears too often, it might be something that in the end affects the adoption of the tool. So yeah, it's all about the end user, in my opinion. And then, connected to this, since there is an SDK and there are the endless options how you use it, the UI needs to be as simple as possible. And this is where, an API-driven implementation helps, because you can get the best designers and the best architects together, and then trying to find the way that is just super smooth for the end user, and then basically moving the complexity to the backend.
I love it. They're both similar in the sense of it comes down to messaging. One's messaging to, your external sort of users about why, it's so going to be such a benefit to them. And the other one, in Eric's case, it's about, hey, you're seeing this every day. It's about forming a new habit of seeing it. And then it is ultimately a different kind of messaging. So yeah, those are both just spot on. I don't know if Ben, if you had anything else to add.
No, it sounds like it's all about the operator, right? Like we have, as tech providers, our customer is the operator, and making sure that they are getting all the data they need in a streamlined manner. So I think they've covered it well.
Perfect. Rounding up, a couple more questions left here. I'm thinking now you've implemented your logistics tech solution. What are the processes that you're going through internally to track the progress of your investment? Like, to say, hey, I like to call it, checking, execution to plan. Are you gaining the value that you expected from your purchase? And what sort of maybe process are you putting in place to actually report that value up to the senior stakeholders that matter?
I can provide a small example, a very specific example of something that we recently implemented. We realized that there was potential waste of time, dead time, opportunities for improvement in the amount of minutes and seconds it takes a driver to walk from his car into an office building to deliver a package and come back out. A 70-year-old part-time driver walks at a much different speed than a 24-year-old young student, or someone young who's fit and trim. He's going to go in, run out with that package, and we noticed there could be time differences in multitude of parameters. We've seen where older drivers might be a little bit more efficient in driving, but be slower getting out of their car, getting there. The younger driver might get out of his car, deliver that package, get back to his car faster. But now I'm looking at, do I really want to optimize a route and route a driver where an older driver might have to walk a little bit farther than another driver would? Am I better off providing that order to a driver that better meets this walking speed bias? We've gone into micromanaging the efficiencies of our fleet, where if there are certain parameters and validation criteria that need to be met, we account for those on the routing and optimization of on-demand transactional records to ensure the most optimal routing of our fleet. And this is purely based upon the 100 meters of walking, that granular.
Oh man, love it. Love it.
So,
that's an awesome example.
Yeah, that's amazing. So Eric, when you build routes, they're for a specific driver, you're saying, like it's based on historical driver performance and a number of factors, and then you try and build like the best route for that driver's strengths?
We have a lot of metrics that come into play to determining how a route gets built: driver location, driver activity, empty miles, time, whether the driver has a dolly, like a little hand cart in their car, where the driver has a weight limitation for maximum piece size and weight. All of that comes down to determining what route a driver is going to do, or what combination of orders within that predetermined route they're going to do, as we may split a route to get better efficiencies.
Interesting.
That's exciting to hear. That you guys are already that granular. So in our use case, it's more a broadly or a broader a framework, and yeah, we try to make sure that we have dashboards in place. With all the data points, we can easily track if SLAs are met, especially from third parties who use our system. And then in the end, it's all about a customer satisfaction on our end. So there is also planned to let our users of the app, where you place the order, rate the delivery, and then yeah, we can also use this key metric to make sure that everything is running smoothly. Yeah, and without the Hypertrack solution, we couldn't get those data points at all.
That's awesome. And while that is broad, I mean, I feel like that's probably where AB Courier started as well. Like, you start off broad, and then as you start learning and gathering data, you start figuring out where to drill down. Ben, anything to add based off of your experiences with helping these implementations and helping the customer success side of things?
Absolutely. I guess from my perspective, as I sit more at the planning phase when you're building this tech, is it's important to have a plan, right? Like, what KPIs are you looking to derive and to increase from this? You know, be it on-time fulfillment, be it that asset utilization, or reducing the dwell time, as Eric mentioned or alluded to. You know, what are your goals? And the people I work with that have a clearer vision of those goals, you know, Eric's obviously got a very, very mature implementation. And Toby does too. Like, I've seen his dashboards. He's got some of the most streamlined kind of operations portals that I've seen next to Eric. And I think both them, it's been a pleasure to work with, because they have that clear vision of what do I need to do and what are those goals and stuff. They've put in the work to study what their needs are. And I think that is the biggest piece of advice when measuring the return on your investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that I would just sort of add that I know at Hypertrack, it's something that we really focus on in the front end of that process as well, is really helping anyone we're talking to just really define and drill down on what those key performance indicators are. So this has been great. I think if anything, you guys have demonstrated during these 5 questions that you have a lot of valuable insights to give. The questions, the final one that I would have is, what would your advice be to your fellow logistics tech builders who are listening to this and wondering, should I be trying to build this myself? You know, should I be going out and finding a one-stop shop to sort of satisfy my needs now and revisit it later? What would your advice be to those fellow logistics tech builders that are maybe sitting where you are where you were sitting years ago?
I guess the first set of advice I could offer is, don't reinvent the wheel. The wheel's already been invented. There's an excellent wheel out there. It's called Hypertrack. It might look very simple on the surface. It's because it is. It's simple to implement. It's simple to utilize. It's simple to understand. But the ability for it to be complex, the ability for it to monitor any wishful metric that you want is there. We spent 3+ years grinding down on micro activity management of drivers, understanding multi-routing, understanding proper fleet optimization, and all of that is due to the data that is provided through Hypertrack. The best advice I can offer to fellow logistics tech builders is start small, start with one little vision, one area you want to proceed to, perfect it, and then gradually start to expand outward as you understand more about how one set of data conflicts or works with or works alongside another set of data.
One disclaimer for our audience is that we did not coach them or provide a script to say that exact words. I promise you, we literally got together 5 minutes before this call to even review the questions that we were going to be asking. So that was straight off the tip. I could have said it better myself. Thanks for that, Eric.
I have no problem professing that we are loyal HyperTrack clients. I have no problem supporting a great product.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I guess my advice would be similar. It might be the most generic advice in the IT industry, but yeah, start small and then start to iterate. That's what I really cherished in my last 2 years, let's say, here with Magaloop. So just trying to figure out what is the one thing that brings the most value initially, and then iterating on top of it in small cycles. To make sure you always meet the goals, and if you go wrong one day, it's easier to return to the last step you made. It's in my opinion about iterations.
Absolutely. And Ben Johnson, from your perspective, having done a lot of implementations.
Absolutely. I think our CEO has said before, and I've heard it said by others, that all companies these days are tech companies, right? If you want to compete in the modern world, like it or not, you're a tech company to a point. And I think the main piece of advice, beyond start small, is it's figure out what your strengths are. Like, most of the people I talk to, they built their company on a couple core strengths, be it onboarding drivers or managing those partner relationships type thing, and then work with experts, like HyperTrack. And again, we'd love to be that expert, that extension of your team for these very specific problems around that location tech, around that full stack problem that is collecting and managing and watching devices. I think everyone, the best piece of advice is that, like, find the help you need and focus on the things that derive the most value early on. What's necessary, and then build from there. As Toby said, I couldn't have said it better.
All very, very, very good. Very good advice. And with that being said, this has been an absolutely great panel. Like, I've learned a lot. I think there was a couple of points hearing things that the nerd in me got so excited, I got sort of goosebumps hearing it. So I hope everybody that's out there listening also got a lot of value from this. Again, it's our first ever Logistics Tech Summit, and I just want to thank Eric and Tobias and Ben Johnson for participating and sharing their experiences with everyone. Thank you guys so much, and really have a great evening and a great rest of the day, you guys.
Absolutely.
It was a pleasure.